Algeria is a country in North Africa, the biggest in fact, and it's pretty much all desert, except for a very lovely little coastline to the north. But we aren't here for tourism, no. We are here for political history, specifically the Algerian War against France and the politics of identity. Algeria was part of the Ottoman Empire until 1847, when the French invaded and took it over, after the First French-Algerian War, which began in 1830 by using a diplomatic debacle on the part of the ruler of Algeria, slapping the French ambassador with a fly whisk. So Charles X, King of France, used it as an excuse to invade and take over the entire country. The things you could get away with back 200 years ago. Anyway, Algeria was a settler colony, meaning that the French were encouraged to move to the area, which they did. So like most settler colonies, the colonizers were better off than the rest of the population there. We're gonna skip ahead about a century and a bit to the War of Independence because it shapes Algerian politics and history. By the time the Second World War ends, Algeria is an integral part of the French Empire. Not being so much a colony anymore, but a region, a région en français. In France, a région is administratively speaking like a US state or a Canadian province. So the French citizens were well integrated within Algeria. The Pieds Noirs, as they were called, were a large part of the French elite and well integrated within Algeria. There was a stark divide as to what Algeria was and was going to be between the Pieds Noirs and the native Algerians. Battle of identities of who was Algeria. That was really the fuel for the Algerian War from 1954 to 1960. Identity politics are at the forefront of the Algerian War, seeing as that there weren't only French people, but other Europeans, Berbers, Jews, even the native Algerians who weren't in favor of being independent of France. Many people had specific ideas of what classified as French or Algerian, and for some people, like the Jewish immigrants to Algeria, were caught between these two seemingly monolithic groups, not really fitting into either. In the time between France first colonizing Algeria and the war, identities were less social and more political, as the Algerians became more and more dissatisfied with the French and began mobilizing politically. The identities became more prominent. People started taking sides, with their cultural identities slowly becoming more entrenched with their political ones. By 1956, there was more violence between the major independence organization, the FLN, or the National Liberation Front in English, and the French Army, and later on in the war, the OAS, or Secret Army Organization, which was made up of Pieds Noirs, who felt like their country was being taken away from them when there was more and more talk of independence. Cutting a long story short, the FLN was seen as more legitimate than the OAS by everyone in the international community, hence why they did not win Algeria. The FLN did, and the Algeria that we know and love was born. The intertwined nature of Algeria played a role in how Algerians see themselves today, as well as what drove them to war with the French and ultimately disjoin and become a separate nation. Identity is a powerful player in politics and is often overlooked when people study it. Speaking of things that are overlooked, we're going to be looking at a micro-state next time, situated between France and Spain. We're going to be looking at Andorra. Until next time.